Hey, it's Amethyst Virgo. I'm here to talk about when there are no planets in a sign. Okay, when you're in your chart, you have no planets whatsoever in a particular sign. You have no themes of that sign really in the chart. What might it mean? So there will be timestamps in this where I go through all the zodiac signs if you're missing them. There is no missing in a chart. So for instance, when you look at the top right, all of the signs show up on the cusps of houses, right? And when, for instance, you don't have anything in a house. So if you see here, this person has Cancer, this is the sample chart, Cancer on the cusp of the 8th house. What that can mean is, well, you would have to go to the moon in Aries in the 5th house to get some deeper connections to what that could potentially mean. Now, I do have a video where I talk kind of, briefly, but also kind of giving you the rundown of what does it mean to have a sign on the cusp of a house. Because think about this. A house, as I said in one of my last videos, is an event or the themes. The placements, right? Mercury in Virgo, Sun in Taurus, right? Venus in Libra. The placement are the traits that a person may embody and have to grapple with, work with, strengthen, refine, right? So for instance, this person here, it's not that they're embodying Cancer energy through the 8th house. It's more so events that can happen around them and to them. So that's why we would have to look at the moon as well to see this moon in Aries effect. Again, that's interpretation. This video is meant to be a little bit more in general, but think through what signs in your chart really don't show up or ones where you really don't resonate a lot with them. Now that's a whole signs chart. For those of us that use Placidus, we will notice sometimes, and I have a video about this, there are interceptions in the chart. So in this example, Scorpio and Taurus are the signs intercepting. Now, when a sign is intercepting, what you do on one side must happen. So here we see Cancer shows up twice and the opposite sign Capricorn shows up twice. Now, if this was an actual interpretation, it would be quite interesting. Mercury and Saturn are in retrograde in this chart. They have their signs intercepted. That would be a very interesting observation there. But point being, every sign shows up. It's just this sign, Taurus and Scorpio, aren't actually ruling over the house. So you would see that it still is relevant. You will see that in this chart, you could interpret what that could mean. You'd have to go deeper. There could be some underlying issues. But at the end of the day, there is no such thing as a sign just doesn't show up. But we do have to look at where it is and if there's any special circumstances. In this chart, it just so happens there are no placements in Cancer except for the ascendant. So themes, confronting Cancerian themes, are still going to be a part of this person's mission. Also, this person has Venus in the 4th house. So this chart, though there aren't any actual planets in Cancer, just the ascendant, there are more Cancerian themes. Whereas this person would need to probably look at this video and read up and listen to what I say about when Cancer is not in the chart or missing, so to speak. But yeah, I might use the term missing in this chart. In this video, I don't really mean it's missing, just that it's not a dominant force in your chart. Okay, so if you do not have any Aries in the chart, you have a difficult time understanding people who do not plan ahead. This is especially if you are a Capricorn, if you are a Virgo type, even maybe a Taurus type. You have a very difficult time understanding Aries energy. And I say this as someone who has the other fire signs in my chart of Sagittarius and Leo. I way more relate to those energies, of course, than Aries energy. And again, I've said before, I've been confronted with Aries energy because in my house, I'm the only person that does not have any predominant Aries energy anywhere in a major placement. And so even when I pull up asteroids, I think there's one random asteroid I have in Aries, but there is nothing really making me embody an Aries nature, okay? So when you don't have Aries in the chart, it can mean it's very difficult for you to initiate things without already having either a background about it, or without having a plan, or without having some emotional connection to it, depending on your other chart areas, right? So let's say you're a Cancer person and you have Pisces in your chart and these water placements, but you don't have any Aries in the chart, and it's completely not there, you have a hard time relating to that trait in an individual or in yourself. And you sometimes may have to drum that out in certain moments to really tap into this. So because it's not naturally there, it does feel a little artificial at times when you have to be, let me just do this. I'm just going to try it on my own. I'm just going to get this done. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but it does mean that it's not natural for you to do that. Okay. Now, if you don't have any Taurus energy in the chart, and again, when I say there's no Taurus energy, of course you're going to have Taurus on the cusp, or you have Taurus intercepting if you're using Placidus. If you are using whole signs, of course Taurus is going to be somewhere on one of those house cusps. But if you're looking at your chart, you're like, I'm looking at my planets, I'm looking at my major asteroids, I don't see anything really here, or I see something minimal here. You may have a difficult time understanding people who don't move very fast, or situations that don't accumulate very fast, because Taurus is about the build-up nature. Taurus is the gathering of things. Taurus is preserving, or it's trying to gather, preserve, and get things, okay? And if you think of that energy with Taurus, it is about, I need to find what's of value. And then how can you find what's of value if you don't take time? When we think of this more on that level, we become a little bit more, I would say, understanding of Taurus natured people. But if Taurus is not in your chart, especially if you're a fiery energy person or an air energy person, you can sometimes struggle with embodying that part in yourself of being staying a steady pace. You may always think there's more and better and bigger things to do. So you sometimes have to look at how this energy can better be used, especially let's say if you're a person who has, maybe Taurus is your descendant sign, but you don't have any placements in Taurus. It's going to be very important to really draw on those relationships and people who teach you patience, who teach you process, right? You are who you are. You know, your chart is your chart for a reason. But when you lack certain energy in the chart, it can sometimes be more difficult to tap into it when you need to, because not everything can be done like that. Not everything is going to be easily accessed as well. And so when you lack Taurus, you can sometimes lack that preservation, that simplicity in things, okay? Because even if you have Virgo in the chart, Virgo can get very analytical and very complex with things, right? Virgo and Scorpio say sometimes, especially Scorpio, can complicate things. Now, sometimes complexity is needed. Complexity and depth and range is very much needed sometimes, but sometimes it makes things more convoluted. And so, especially on the Scorpio end of things, whereas the Virgo end of things is getting so lost in the minute that you're losing the sense of what it is you're trying to, the outcome in the first place. So that's what Taurus comes in. So if you are lacking Taurus in the chart, you can learn from people like that or situations that require you to stay the course. Gemini. If you're lacking Gemini energy in the chart, you can maybe struggle with objectivity. You struggle with fully understanding things in a way that allows for you to detach your personal views, especially let's say you're a person with Sag energy in the chart, you got Capricorn in the chart, maybe you got a Leo rising, maybe you have some 9th house placements. You're going to be very opinionated, but sometimes when we're too opinionated, we lack the ability to interact with thoughts beyond ourselves. Right? And we're driven by just our own personal convictions, when sometimes to strengthen our convictions, we actually have to learn more from those around us or learn from things objectively. So if Gemini is completely lacking in your chart, you don't have any connection to Gemini, you don't have any placements in Gemini or any major placements, you don't have anything in the 3rd house, nothing of that nature. You don't have any significant aspects to Mercury that can strengthen those thoughts. It can be important for you to sometimes get to know things beyond your own personal opinion. Dabble and read certain things that maybe contradict what you say a little bit, right? And that's for you to learn how to see beyond your own scope of things, okay? If you're lacking Gemini in the chart, also sometimes for some people it can be lack of communication or struggling with communication, especially if you have Mercury squaring anything in your chart. You don't have any Gemini in the chart. You don't have anything in the 3rd house, right? And so there's nothing giving you that Gemini nature. Fine, you don't have to be a Gemini. None of us have to be anything but what our charts are. But those are things to keep in mind if you lack that trait, or that specific sign. If there's no Cancer in the chart, well, if there's no Cancer in the chart, we would have to look at, of course, everything else. But Cancer allows for us to care and nurture things that belong to us. And it doesn't always have to mean people or family or children. But Cancer energy, it's allowing something to grow and materialize because of its ability to bring a sense of completion or give a sense of, bringing something forth together. So you can sometimes lack connection to things if you lack Cancer in the chart, or you don't have any type of connection to Cancer energy within the chart. The moon's got some squares. There's nothing in your 4th house. you don't have any signs in Cancer, you don't, maybe you don't, there can be times where people have, maybe they're coming from a South Node in Cancer, so maybe they already have that kind of energy. But if you're lacking it completely, there can be a lack of caring for things in a way that is authentic. It can mean that, maybe you have a lot of Scorpio energy. Maybe it's coming on too strong. About shadow side energy of Cancer and manipulation and things like that I probably talked about in my shadow video. My shadow video, I talk about all the signs and the shadow side of all the signs. But the importance here would be if you're lacking Cancer energy, it also can mean there's a lack of warmth. There's a lack of sometimes emotional intelligence and how emotions matter. And I've talked before about the fact that people misinterpret emotions a lot, mostly because it has been naturally, historically pinned just on the feminine or of women. Like, okay, every single woman in the whole entire world is emotional. Every single man in the whole entire world is logical. But really, people are more complex than that. And we are socialized certain ways. And of course, you could argue that there are differences, right, between genders for multiple reasons. And you have some people that don't feel they fit into either category, right? People who feel they're more on the non-binary spectrum. So there's vast ways in which people can express. But the point that I'm making is a lot of people don't feel comfortable with certain energy that's emotional because of the way it's treated in society as a weakness. When really, as I said before, if you're in touch with your spiritual side, your emotional side, you're in touch with your feelings, and you master that, you could be a very powerful person, especially when we talk about spirituality. Spirituality is nothing but sensing and feeling and picking up on things and building your intuition. So to be spiritual, but say you don't have emotions or emotions don't matter, actually would be a big contradiction. Cancer energy in the chart, there can be that lack of that natural ability to understand and sense how people are feeling, which means you can build up walls and barriers. Maybe you're really good at something, but people don't feel a natural connection to you because there's a lack of feeling, oh, that person cares about me. That person cares about what I'm doing, right? And again, it will depend on other aspects of the chart, but that is something that can be an issue. Now, if there's lack of Leo in the chart, well, it can mean that there's, especially let's say the sun is afflicted, the sun is in any house where it's codependent. There can be an issue with confidence if you don't have this. And I'm not saying you have to have anything in Leo, but if there's an absence of anything Leo, if there's an absence of fifth house placements, if there's an absence of positive aspects to the sun, any of those things, this is what can happen. Now, a lack of Leo can mean a lack of that pride. A person who can't speak or live with their own convictions. Fire. So Leo sometimes is going to go the course regardless. It's similar to Scorpio, even Capricorn, Capricorn's not fixed, but these energies are like, I'm going in the direction I'm going because I need to do this. Aries as well. So the Cardinals tend to do that. Libra, not as much. The Cardinals tend to do that, but you also can see that same thing in Leo. I'm going my own pace. I've decided this is what I'm doing. Now, right or wrong, okay? But when you lack Leo energy in the chart, even if you're great and you're good and you're a great person, all this, it means your confidence can sometimes, there's things you might not have confidence in that you're actually great at. There can be things that there could be, especially if a person has a lot of like Pisces energy or 12th house energy and 8th house energy, and the scorpionic energy, there can be sometimes, difficulty in seeing the bright side of things, difficulty in seeing the positive in things, especially if there's any emotionally charged aspects within the chart that can lead to people having, being very melancholy, being very sad, depressed, things like that. So if Leo is lacking in the chart, it can mean that you have to find joy. It may be harder, like you have to go seek joy instead of it naturally being a part of your natural disposition, okay? Now, Virgo. If you lack Virgo in the chart, what I've noticed, if people lack Virgo energy, there is sometimes it's difficult to put things in order. And I don't mean it even just like literally, but sometimes it's a difficulty in fully understanding how to arrange things. A person could have a great idea, but they struggle to actually logistically put it together into what should come first, what makes sense. How it can be, and again, especially combined with anything else in a chart, of knowing where to place things. Nope, we do this first, then we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this, and this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. When we're talking about efficiency. So a person doesn't have a lot of Virgo in the chart can be quite successful as well, just like if you have Virgo or Gemini or Capricorn, whatever. I don't put a limit on what people can be, but this could be a person who's really good at delegating Virgo-like things to other people. So let's say you're a great business owner, you're successful, but you're not good at the specifics. You're good at the vision. You're good at the vision. You're good at the big stuff, but you're not really good at the nitty-gritty, day-to-day, daily things that make something flow. That is where you might delegate something to Virgo. But when you're younger or you're in a different phase in your life, organization can be very hard. Sticking to deadlines can be very difficult because you don't see the value in them, or it's not naturally a part of who you are. When we lack certain placements in the chart, we don't embody it. So it's harder to understand why it matters, right? And so you're looking at the Virgo friend like, what are you putting all that together for? Like, why are you arranging your week? I just go with the flow. Why are you writing in a calendar what you're going to do for the week? Like, I just go with the right. Not understanding it, that makes that person know what to predict and what to prioritize, right? And so if you don't have Virgo in the chart, that's fine, but just learning different routines and ways to make your life flow more efficiently can support you if you're noticing that that's something that you lack. Libra. Now, lack of Libra in the chart for most people could mean, now again, I'm repeating this for almost every sign. A lack of Libra means there's no theme. So you can have a person who has a lot of degrees in 7 and 19, degree system that I use. All right. Not everybody uses it, but they have Libra. That's Libra, right? If a person has North Node in the 7th house, there's Libra themes. Let's say they have also the vertex there. So they're going to experience something with the 7th house. So, or there are people who have placements, they have Libra ascendant. They have Libra somewhere, right? You already have it somewhere. But if you have no Libra type energy, even Venus is not really well aspected in the chart, you don't understand how to do things with people. You can be overly independent, where you don't even know how to ask for help. You could sometimes fail to relate to people in very meaningful ways. Now, again, to fully understand if this would affect you, we have to look at the entire birth chart. And when you get your chart interpreted, that's where you dive into all those different things. So a lack of Libra can sometimes also you deprioritize relationships, which can, it can be an issue if you long for it, but you aren't actually doing the things needed to be done to relate to other people, right? There is a fear of joining up with someone else, or there can be difficulty fully understanding how to tap into that part of yourself. You're used to doing a lot of things on your own, especially if you have any placements that show a lot of independence. And so when Libra is lacking in the chart, also you don't understand, or you, especially if you have any competitive energy or any assertive energy in the chart, people who are too nice or people who are too pleasant or people who always want to piece things together, it's like, no, say what's on your mind. But if a person has more Libra energy in the chart, that can be more of a, no, I got to think about how I want to say this because I don't want to mess up the relationship, especially if a person has Libra and Cancer in the chart, right? There's a thought process or more thoughtfulness around some things at times. Whereas if you don't have that Libra connection or anything in your chart helping you kind of, straddle that world, it can mean that you lack that. But it also can mean you're more direct maybe than some other people because you're not super concerned with keeping the peace if something needs to be said. Now, if you're lacking Scorpio energy in the chart, especially if there's a lot of lighthearted energy in the chart, you can sometimes struggle to see serious things, or you can struggle sometimes to deal with serious topics, deal with serious feelings. You can sometimes find that, you find people who are too introspective, too deep, too into, the depths of things as a turnoff, it's like, I'm just trying to have fun. Like this person is, like that, it can be that type of energy. If you have, again, the chart would have to support that you have more of that lighthearted, friendly, happy-go-lucky type of energy within the chart. Lacking Scorpio in the chart as well can mean it's hard to attach to things. And things don't have to just be relationships or intimate situations. It sometimes can mean projects, work, commitments. It's hard to commit to something because you haven't seen things transform. Now, again, there's a benefit to being lighthearted and joyful and happy, but the pitfall of that can mean when you don't know how to commit, attach, and see something all the way through in order for it to become something new and transform, which is something Scorpio is, can be known for. Now, if you don't have any Sagittarius in the chart, now again, you would have to look at the whole entire chart. Does the person have Jupiter, in mutual reception to their chart ruler? So maybe there's a Jupiter type theme there. Does the person have a stellium in the 9th house, right? Are there things that can help give a little bit of that Sagittarius energy? Just a little bit. But if it's not there, it can indicate that it's hard for you to be optimistic. You know, maybe you're someone that can be quite pessimistic at times. It's hard for you to feel open. You're only really concerned with things that are within your own control. You don't branch out all that much. You can sometimes struggle with your belief system or your faith. You can sometimes maybe even have an aversion to things, beliefs, and be maybe someone who's overly invested in objectivity and facts and the science of things, which is, you know, fine. But the Sagittarius, we know, is more about that belief-driven type of actions. Sagittarius energy is associated with this, like, you know, ideally your lifestyle or where you live and your philosophy is in alignment with your belief systems, based on things that maybe are more seen, objective. I see this. This is what matters to me. So if you don't have any Sag references at all in the chart, you might find it's a little bit harder to really focus in. Now, again, you would look at where Jupiter is in your chart to see where that, you know, energy could lie. Now, if you lack Capricorn energy in the chart, that means Capricorn is not, there's no major placement in Capricorn. Saturn is not well aligned to Capricorn type energy. So Saturn is the ruler, but if Saturn is in something like Gemini, Saturn's in Gemini, the 5th house, you know, obviously you would interpret that, but thematically, that's less of a Capricorn type energy, especially if you have nothing in the 10th house, right? So there's no degrees associated with Capricorn, not right. Well, what it can mean is sometimes it's harder for you to follow the beaten path. You sometimes can veer off. You reject or have a disassociation with things that came before you. Again, if the person's chart represents rebellion, this could be a person who kind of rebels against systems, structures, rebels against, discipline, rebelled against their parents, doesn't prefer structure, doesn't like structure. Now, what structure can sometimes do for us is it helps us with a goal. No matter how free we want to be, when we have goals, we have to somehow follow some type of blueprint. We have to in some way see what is going to happen. Like, what is it that I want? And what are the action steps that I'm willing to take? And so when there's no Capricorn in the chart, it can mean a struggle with execution of things, struggle with following the rules. It's like you had it, you were almost there, but you decided you didn't want to follow the rule, and now you're back at square one, right? So when you lack that Capricorn energy, you lack discipline. It is about finding something to be disciplined about. Of course, we're allowed to be who we are as long as we're not hurting anybody. But if we lack the ability to have structure and to follow certain routines that are going to guarantee success, we are sometimes losing out on situations because we have decided we're going to completely abandon certain things, when sometimes that Capricorn nature, following something all the way through to the goal and being relentless, is the way in which you achieve something. If there's a lack of Aquarius in the chart, or any Aquarius references, or Uranus is not necessarily in a position or aspects where it's heightened and where it's emphasized, this can definitely mean a person sometimes who struggles with conforming. You don't, it's not that you might conform too much. You don't want to be seen as different. You feel an aversion to people who are too radical, people who are too rebellious, people who are too opinionated. Especially if other aspects in the chart match that. You can struggle with straying, meaning like it's hard for you to stray from things that are already processed, things that are already conceived, things that already you've done. You can, you might sometimes feel, that things should be conformed. They should be a certain way, because Aquarius grants us the permission to think outside the box. Now, can Aquarius energy be too radical in thought sometimes? Of course, when there's completely obliterating any type of structure whatsoever. But in general, Aquarius energy can be that kind of freedom-seeking energy. But if you're lacking it anywhere, that means you're afraid to kind of rock the boat. You're afraid to give an opinion that could be seen as confrontational. So it is something just to keep in mind, that there may be times where you kind of have to take more of a chance. There may be a time where you have to try something new, invent something new. You might say, you know what, let me try this a completely different way that I've ever done before, and then see if that really works out for you. Now, if you're lacking Pisces in the chart, any Pisces reference, any significant Pisces energy, that means Neptune is not well aspected, or Neptune is not, it's in a random house. It's not in the 12th house. You don't have any degrees associated with Pisces. It's really not a lot there in that regard. It can indicate a lack of compassion or a lack of understanding things beyond your own relationships. You know how some people are compassionate about the world, about people, about life? Well, of course, the other water signs represent attachment. Now, Scorpio is choosing. I'm choosing to be attached to you. And more so, Cancer can be more of the family dynamic, right? But those are all obligations in a way, right? Like the fourth house in Cancer and Moon, that's more obligatory. That is my family. Those are people that cared for me. I care for them. They belong to me. I belong to them. And the eighth house can be more of that, it could be associated with a lot of sexual energy, intimacy, things of that nature, people that are bonded together, right? We owe each other something because we're bonded together. And, you can argue no one owes anyone anything, but that energy. Piscean energy is more compassionate for, humankind. It is more, it doesn't have these same barriers. And so when a person lacks a Pisces energy in the chart, it can mean they could be carrying in one area of their life, but maybe not in another. And it doesn't mean they have to be, and it doesn't mean they have to be a Pisces, but when you lack that, it also can mean lacking vision, lacking, not understanding how to see the impossible. Now, if a person has, especially if you don't have any Sag energy in that chart, you don't have any Aquarius in the chart, you don't have any Pisces energy chart, you have no placements in any of that. You can maybe be very structured, very organized, very, very literal about things, but that more, creative, but like it's different because Pisces creativity is I'm creating something that may not exist. I'm creating something that people may have not seen before because it's a part of my imagination or it's something that hits the human spirit. So people that have that Pisces energy, you're going to see more of that tapping into the universal experience. Whereas a person could be creative for a niche area. They're creative, but people like them like what they make. But with Pisces energy, you can tap into other, right? Because you're tapping into the human experience, not by race, gender, and religion and things. Pisces is tapping into the humanity of us all. So when a person doesn't have Pisces, it's not bad, but it can mean that you might want to be around people who kind of inspire that in you. If you're like, I don't really have, I'm not inspired by anything. I don't know, you don't see the possibility in things, you only, especially if you're earthly, if you have a lot of earth placements, you're very little, you're very structured about what you can see. But Pisces about, doesn't matter if we can't see it, I can feel it and sense it. So therefore it's real, right? And again, that's a whole different conversation about Pisces and that energy. But if you lack that, that is something that you might notice.